Okay, we want to call to order the regular EDC meeting of Tuesday, May the 12th, 2020. Have no particular opening comments other than we remain in crazy times, and but thankful that at least our local businesses are able to begin to reopen and test the waters. And I know that it's not where any of them need to be, but at least it's a beginning, and maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So with that, Brent, I'll turn it over to you for any city update.
All righty. Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. On the city update, one of the things with this with this pandemic / economic crisis that we're all experiencing is where are we sitting on sales tax? And on sales tax for March, we got the numbers in May. We were up 16% over March 2019, and over the year, as we accumulate that, we're up just over 5.75%. And that's a little unusual, but it's probably due to our very strong retailers with Home Depot, Target. We have Chick-fil-A, our smaller businesses, the sit-in restaurants. Obviously, we're closed for a long time, so we didn't see sales tax or the mixed beverage tax come in. On mixed beverage, I believe we're down about 19% over the February number, and that's going to get worse. Fortunately, the mixed beverage tax is the smaller of the two taxes. I think at 19%, it's pretty close to $2,000. So it's not insignificant, but it's not as impactful as our regular sales tax. And the other thing with the increased sales tax number is directly attainable to people that are buying things off of Amazon and Etsy and having it delivered to their home. So there's a lot of online shopping that took place, and we do collect sales tax on those transactions when they enter their ship to address. So it's not as bad.
Really? So that's how that's tracked?
On the state, as far as, yes, those individual those individual transactions are tracked also with our sales tax. And the year-to-date impact for the state as a whole, and this is the March number, is down just shy of 1.5%. So there are people that are there are municipalities that are hurting a lot more. Some are doing much better, but if you lop us all together and look at numbers, it's down about 1.5%. Working on some of the projects that you've allowed me to take over. One thing is the trash cans. They have arrived. We have them stored over Public Works. Those arrived yesterday morning. They look really nice. I'm waiting on a box of accessories. I don't know if they're lids or the chains to hold the lids on, but they are supposed to arrive by Thursday. They're coming on a different truck, but they are here, and that was ahead of schedule, so very happy. Also, the trash cans, the plastic trash cans that were ordered for the pool area, as opposed to having concrete because they need to move them around for various events, they have arrived. However, I have not put them into service yet, but they are here as well. Got two of those that are a little more maneuverable, and they will do a good job up there. As far as the other projects that are going on, we talked about the LEAP parking lot and the lighting study that's associated with that, and I was able to sign electrical contract, engineering contractor, and also have a mechanical engineer review the windstorm ratings, make sure that mechanically those lights will withstand what we need in a coastal environment. The cost not to exceed was $5,000, and I signed a contract for both those items for $3,600. So haven't had any producibles yet, but they are working on that, and they have all of the data that, including the light study that was provided. So they're working through that, and they also have contact with CenterPoint so they can work on designing the exact drop location, which we anticipate is going to be over by the body shop on that corner. That's the place that makes the most sense. On Drawer Avenue, been following up with Galveston County Engineering. I spoke with Mike Shannon today, and I've had this for a month and been waiting for a response from them, but we're still awaiting. There's a possible change in the right of way, and I did advise that I wanted to make sure that I had it completely ready to go before we approach the property owner, Mr. Drawer, his representatives. So we're holding on that. He hoped to get that one question answered today with the consulting engineers, and he was ready to call them, but I did not get any information back from him today. So he did thank me for following up, and I've been following up with him every couple of weeks on this because it is important to get done. As far as our virtual meetings go, the governor has done some extensions. I don't anticipate this being the case, hopefully, the next EDC meeting, but I think that his declaration has been pushed out another 30 days. It expired on today's date and will probably get pushed back out to June 12th, 2020, and will remain in effect until that time, where it can be extended, or until, as they say, it is affirmatively rescinded. So when he comes out and says it's done, that they don't anticipate him having any changes this time, so it'll probably be pushed out through June 12th. And also yesterday, the governor
And I'm sorry,
announced,
Brent, is that?
and the mayor was, I believe, on that conference. It allows virtual meetings as opposed, just like what we're doing, the telemeetings. That had to be allowed by the governor as part of the Open Door Act for meetings. People still have the ability to come in and visit and participate in this meeting. It's just a little different format than we're used to. Was that your question, Charles?
It was. I didn't know if that were mandated, that you had to have the remote meetings, or it was just, I guess, as you described, it was just permitted through June 12th, you said?
Yeah.
Likely? Okay.
Yes, through
League
Yeah.
City is
And
doing they're doing live meetings in League City.
Yeah, we're aware. Our next council meeting is likely going to be live. We're going to bring our staffings live on Monday. So we're moving in that direction, but we're taking small steps. Same thing. And also, I think the mayor was on the conference call yesterday. They discussed a lot of things revolving around the Corona Relief Fund, and that's the Fed stimulus funds pushed out. I'm awaiting some additional direction, but there is one thing that was listed specifically as something that would qualify, and it said expenses associated with the provision of economic support in conjunction with COVID-19 public health emergency. So, does that include the economic support that was provided by the EDC to our local businesses? And that's a question that I have. The State Department, Texas Department of Emergency Management is currently assembling that list by municipality. I tried to click on the link today and it was a dead link, so I don't know if they had it up and they removed it, or you just had a bad link on the newsletter that I got. But I'd like to go in there and check that out. And there is a provision that they can have clawback. So that's why I want to make sure that we do qualify. It's an allowable expense before we go after any additional monies, because we don't want to go further down the road. And in a year, 2 or 4, they come back and say, that's not an allowable expense. But we have it documented. We had a good program. Funds were dispersed for that purpose. And so when the time comes, we can evaluate that and look at it. My intent would be, if we qualify, to go ahead and apply for that. I don't think we'll apply or we'll qualify on the city side for our response, because we're relatively small. We've been very resilient, and we have had purchases, but we're nowhere close to the threshold. And we may get close with all of our labor, but that remains to be seen. So are there any questions for me that I could answer possibly?
Not for me. That would be fantastic.
Okay,
That
thank
were
you. I'm
reimbursable,
gonna mute myself.
but also just kind of yeah. I think that your first comment about sales tax revenues, that's really huge. And I noticed that, and hopefully that is sustained through April and May. And it was good to see Home Depot in particular selling a lot of taxable items, and their business was probably up, and some of the fast food guys. Doesn't take away from a lot of the pain that a lot of the other businesses suffered, undoubtedly, but sure good to know that we're not getting devastated from a EDC budget standpoint or a city budget standpoint. So that's really, really good news. So thank you. Any other questions for Brent? Okay, there being none, we'll move to director comments, and I'll just start with Joe. Any comments? Joe,
I don't know if I
muted?
ever briefed you on that. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3.
I can see you.
We got you.
Okay. So I don't know if I ever reviewed who I contacted for the investigating the status on the trees. Did I go over that with during the last meeting? I couldn't remember. Anybody recall?
I don't think so. If we've got that just as a separate agenda item, or you want to go ahead and cover it now, that'd be fine. You want to just defer to the agenda
that's fine.
item? Yeah.
Yeah, if we can, that would be great. I did several, I guess it's been about weeks ago. Can you hear me okay? Am I cutting out?
Yes. Little chatter, but no, it's audible. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So about 6 months ago, or not 6 months ago, 6 weeks to 2 months ago, I was able to contact 3 arborists, and the quotes are coming in that $90 range per hour for quoting and just consulting. And then I was also able to get a hold of Heather McKnight. She's the lead city arborist. She did offer to lend assistance free of charge. I told her I would buy her lunch if she could help us out. And she had some good pointers suggesting I call trees for Houston, as well as Centerpoint Forester. Because there may be monies and/or free trees through those 2 organizations. Everything kind of came to a halt, obviously, with the coronavirus and the social distancing. So I've kind of been putting things off to, I want to be able to ride in a golf cart ride with these people and kind of explain our predicament or our situation. So I'll probably reach out and to Heather, as well as 1 or 2 of the arborists, and just start getting some feedback, and then I'll arrange with Brent and whoever else wants to participate in the ride and asking questions. Any volunteers, please contact me, and we'll go from there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Thomas, anything that's not on the agenda you want to comment on? Thomas, you may be muted.
I just got a question actually regarding. Oh, hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're clear.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I got a question more than anything.
Yes.
You know, we have how much we have in the budget for classes. This would be a good time to take some of those EDC webinars. Is that something I just bring up to you and then we go from there, or how do we go? How do we do this?
I think that would be fine. I don't recall what we have in the budget, but I don't think we've spent anything. So we should be good. Yeah, I think it is a good time to look into those things. So yeah, just run that, just shoot me a note on that.
Okay. Other than that, the rest of to go to
okay.
Item 6.
Great. Okay, Mike, do you have any comments? You may be muted as well.
No comments.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Don, anything?
No comment.
Yes. Mike? Did you have anything you want to talk about on jamming?
No, I'll just talk about the things on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Don?
Charles?
The only comment I had was what's happening at the front with TxDOT at the Clear Lake Road and the Marina Bay Drive intersection. I saw them up there working today.
They're replacing the signage. Thank the mayor for tracking that down. We've been working on that for at least a year and a half, and he's been actively working on it a year. So that's what's going up. There'll be bigger, brighter, more reflective signs.
And I know we were at, appreciate Brent getting that, signing up the engineers for the site lighting. What are we doing with landscape? Or is that on the agenda where that entry is? We had talked about kind of doing something a little bit there to add to the landscaping along Marina Bay Drive at the entry into the parking lot.
I think that if it's a question for me, I think that it was at one of the last meetings, it was decided to try to prioritize things and make things that were safety concerns kind of the priority because of the uncertainty of our revenue stream.
Okay.
And so
right.
that first priority was the parking lot, thinking that we need to get that lit, and I'm trying to get it lit as quickly as possible and get our numbers back, but try to get that lit so it can be supportive of the businesses that are down there and need it, because it is a dark lot. I didn't realize how dark it was until after that meeting, and I left and paid close attention to it. So as far as the landscaping goes, we have quotes for it. They're not inexpensive, but I think we need to try to get our lights in first and then kind of have an idea of what we're working with, and it may adjust that plan. So.
Okay, great.
Good, and hopefully that's just a pause and not a long-term delay. Yeah. So, okay. Johnny, any comments?
Yeah, just a couple. And sorry, I keep getting booted out of the meeting. My internet's messed up. If we had internet experts on here that could probably help.
Right. Yes.
If only. I was going to ask about TxDOT, so I'm glad you brought that up. I sent the financial snapshots to you guys just maybe a couple hours ago. And it was nice to see a slight uptick month to month, even though it was small, in sales tax, even though I guess, the worst part of it isn't displayed yet. The bike racks were delayed by a few weeks. I spoke to them late last week, and I think the new ship date is the 15th of this month, so just a few days. So it's going to be just a few days in transit after that, and we should receive them. I think they're coming on a large LTL type freight, so I'm having them shipped to my warehouse down the street because we can unload them at the end of the day, and I can put them on a flatbed and bring them to the city whenever, the next day or something within better hours. So that's all I have.
Excellent. No, that's going to be exciting. Yeah, I'm excited about that and the trash cans. Nice tangible things. So great. Appreciate it. Ronnie?
Yes, before the meeting, I sent everybody over a little spreadsheet that showed our cash flow, our cash revenue coming in. I used a run rate of $22,000 a month. And although we're at 538 now, I think it goes up pretty quickly. Before the end of the year, we should have our funds pretty well replenished. It'd be up in the $650,000 range, assuming that we don't cut any of the checks that we have, big checks we've got to go out for the Drawer Road. So that's encouraging because of the continuing steady sales tax. The other thing I said, and I would like to have a workshop where maybe we all meet down at Okies, and it maybe not at a regular, we would have it at either a separate meeting, or it could be in place of, it could be our next scheduled meeting, or it could be a special meeting, or just a workshop meeting. And everybody just get our heads together and walk around and look at what we have down there. We spent $1.5 million down there getting that front drive, in looking great. But if you walk, one block over and the property we own, for instance, they've got junk all laid up back on the back of the building. The building colors are terrible. It's just a real eyesore. And we could make this so much more than it is for just very little money. And I'm wondering if we should look at a comprehensive approach to this, or just a scattershot deal like we're doing now, where we would get somebody to come in and give us a landscape architect and come in and just give us their input on how we should do the fences and the different things we need to do. There's a lot of opportunity at the parking lots, and I think the deal we're going to talk about, maybe the murals, would be something, because I think we need to make this a place that when you get here, that you're really impressed, not just by the driveway in with the beautiful knockout roses and the street lights and the banners and the sidewalks and things there, but also when you drive into a parking lot, or you go down beside, you come to eat at Schaefer's, and so they're not disappointed by that, where they say, well, I remember that place. So I took an Instagram photo in front of that mural, and it was really cool. So I think we need to maybe take a more comprehensive strategic look at doing our additional landscaping. The town center plan that we have designed now calls for sidewalks all the way down Aspen, and with a little landscaping between the sidewalk, minor landscape between the sidewalk and the street, a lot of other things that would have a big, make this place look a lot different. And, the fact that we're trying to get Okies painted and so on and so forth, and then maybe a mural on the Aspens, are all things that would make a huge difference here. And the investment would not be that much. That's it.
I wonder, Ronnie, I think that's a great idea. And I just wonder if, I'm happy to meet, but I also think it's fairly self-evident what the areas that would need improvement if we somehow and I don't know if it's within the scope of our design work now for the lead track parking lot landscaping, but, and we may need to bring it back to the next meeting for an agenda item, but to just expand that view to encompass those other areas, and some of that hardscape and landscaping that you're referencing. And I think it's appropriate if we're going to go spend $75,000 to $125,000 on the parking lot for lighting and landscaping. We ought to expand that a bit and just kind of address those other eyesores that you're mentioning. So I think we can get to action much faster if we just bring in a concept plan and say, these are the 6 areas that we want to improve, and here are some recommendations, and here's a budget. Otherwise, we're all going to go out there and look at it and go, yep, looks bad. You know, we ought to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can look at what we've got authorized, and if we have latitude in that to go ahead and take that next step, or if we need to bring it back. But I'd just go straight to action. Yeah. Okay. We'll look at that for sure. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Thanks to everyone. Do we have any unscheduled visitors who are in attendance who would like to make any comments? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to the consent agenda, and they came out late, but hopefully everyone received the April financials and check register. And then we have the minutes of our last meeting on April 14th, all on the consent agenda. So do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I think that was Thomas who made the motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I missed who that was, sorry. Who
Mike
seconded?
Pons.
Okay, Mike seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda items? Okay, there being none, all in favor? Aye.
Bonnie, aye.
Okay, and show of hands, either way. Any opposed? Nay. Am I seeing yay hands or nay hands? I think I've got a delay here.
Yay.
Were there any nays?
There's a delay.
Does anyone disapprove or vote against the consent agenda? Yeah, okay, there being no dissenting votes, then that motion passes. Okay, next up, we have a guest. Thomas, if you want to introduce Mr. Allen and kind of what that's about, we'll let you take it away.
Yes, I will. Yes, previously we had a presentation by Southern Broadband, and this is our second alternative, which is Img Services, local Tele Shores business. They are going to put fiber into their building anyway because of a data center they are building. At the end, his office is at right north of Aspen, right by the bridge. He's going to expand and build a data center on the other side of the street, and I'll let him talk more about that. But you know, essentially, even though there's fiber close by here, we only have three options really. It's either Southern Broadband, Img Services, or nothing. That's essentially the three options. So last week we had a little run through about some technical questions because we've had a lot of positive feedback and offers for help to review it within the neighborhood. And thanks to Bill Comey and Eric Hawks, we had a conversation with Richard and shared a lot of the information and a lot of the ideas about it. And yeah, so far we have all thumbs up about the technical aspect and how it's supposed to work. So with that, I will give the mic to Richard and Sam.
Fantastic. Welcome, Richard. Richard, you may be muted. Richard, are you still on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
All right. So basically, Img Services is a third-party inspection company, and this is what we do for the oil and gas industry, along with a lot of other things. We're a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business recognized by the VA. We're in process of bidding on contract with that as well for the VA. My personal background, I used to be a defense contractor for Raytheon. Dealt with fiber back with the military before it actually hit the civilian sector. So I had a lot of background on that. Sam, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick? Sam? All right, we'll see if he jumps on here.
He didn't
Sam's
connect
not up
with the
there?
microphone. He's on here, but not with a microphone.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
you might be muted. Are you on, Sam? All right,
I'm
I'm
on
gonna
my
go ahead.
phone.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead. So if you can, introduce yourself. And
Yeah, I'm Sam Godwin. I am the operations manager for IMG, and Richard has tasked me with looking into the potential for pulling fiber to the island. We've been working on this process now for several weeks, and we're very comfortable with the fact that it is a viable solution. And Richard's put together a little bit of a slideshow. My background is in data centers mainly, and not in the ISP realm. However, I do have the contacts that's necessary to make this happen.
Great. Thank you, Sam.
And
Go ahead.
Richard,
And then share the slideshow. Says I won't let me do it
I was
unless.
going to say, yeah, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to share your screen.
Yeah, it won't let me because somebody else is sharing. There we go. One second. Got about 3 screens up here, and this is the first time I've used this.
While we're looking at that, I was going to mention, I talked to our IT consultant here, one of the senior guys that's responsible for infrastructure. And I asked him about, is 5G just around the corner, and is that going to solve all the problems and displace fiber? And the short answer was no. 5G is not just around the corner for most communities. And even if it were, the fiber is still the gold standard for reliability and capacity and all of the things that people want. So just that is background, and that's, we still have a lot to understand, but and there may be other opinions out there, but that was the Cliff's Notes version of it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The key with fiber is, especially the type of fiber we're looking to lay in, it almost has infinite capabilities. The only limiting factors right now is the equipment that transmits the data and receives the data. And exponentially, year over year, these have started to increase in speeds. Where now 10 gig networks are pretty common. And what we're proposing is what they call a symmetrical 1 gig network. It means your upload and your download speeds are going to be exactly the same, 1 gig capabilities. Whereas if you look at any of your cable companies and places like that, they're going to limit you because their technology can't reach it.
Let's see it. Okay, basically I'm having an issue with this coming up on this. I'm running 3 screens plus a TV as well too, so I'm used to using the other internet connect. Fibercom is basically the company that's going to be doing this when, and basically it's a Clear Lake Shores fiber run. We've got this basically broke down into 3 phases for a proposal summary. Of course, it'd be phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 before the actual fiber starts moving on the island. Phase 1, you're looking at the complete upstream provider contract for an upstream provider to provide service to the building at 815 Clear Lake Road. Then we'll hold an initial shareholder meeting, coordinate with the upstream provider, project scope of work, and then terminate upstream fiber to the Information Control Center, and then obtain phase 1 documents. Sam, you want to expand on phase 1 a little bit?
Yeah, during this phase, what we're actually doing is getting the fiber to our building. At the point that it gets to our building, obviously we're going to go ahead and test so that we'll know everything's working properly. We'll have our infrastructure beginning to be set up internally so that we'll be ready once we're able to bore over to the island itself.
Okay, and then we'll move on to phase 2, which is basically putting together the Information Control Center. So it's initial assessment of all the requirements such as backup power, because of course we don't want this thing dropping and then taking forever to come back up. Procurement of hardware and software to go ahead and make all that happen with the actual data banks and the servers and everything we need to go ahead and do that. It's construction of the Information Control Center, test out of center equipment and software, and then an implementation of the data center. Now, one thing that need everybody to understand, while phase 1 is going on, phase 2 will be going on, and phase 3 will be going on all at the same time. So,
Richard, you switched presentations. You're on the CommScope presentation.
Oh, I'm on the CommScope presentation? Oh, my fault.
Yes, sir.
I got way too many screens, Sam. 1 second.
There you go. You're on the right presentation.
Okay. So then you get implementation data center. So on the data center with the control room that we're talking about, Sam, you want to go ahead and expand on that?
Yeah, basically within the control center, what we're looking at doing is having a number of different systems set up. Like Richard was talking about earlier, we would be setting up a data center for housing, web hosting, remote backups, any number of services towards that end, including leasing servers to individuals and corporations. And during that time frame, we would go ahead and we would be setting up the initial fiber optic equipment that's going to be necessary to physically connect the homes on the island and testing all of that out.
So this is kind of a new concept. Basically, you're looking at a data center that's also a control center. That's the control center specifically for Clear Lake Shores. So it doesn't go out to Kemah and doesn't go out to League City and what's here is Clear Lake Shores, period. I've lived here 8 years, and I know everybody has had a lot of issues with the current service providers, and I think it's time for a change. So the only way to do this is a community, to have the community have its own business sitting here that they literally can get in their golf carts, drive up the street if they have an issue, and talk to a person. They'll have their own techs. They'll have their own control room operator specifically for Clear Lake Shores. Later on, if Kemah comes up and says, hey, we want to do this too, they'll have their own. It won't be shared between the two. Each one will have designated for each community. Get into phase 3. And basically that's installation of fiber to primary terminal box on the island test out fiber run. So what we're proposing is that a lot of issues we have with high winds and stuff, especially during hurricanes. We don't want to run it on the power lines because fiber's fragile. And I do understand that they do have fiber that can run on power lines, but when we have one single strand of fiber coming into the island, and if it breaks, we're going to have a serious issue. We basically have two options here. We can run it on the power lines, or we can do a bore underneath the water and come up right next to the community center to a primary terminal box, and then branch out from that box. Want to expand on that, Sam?
Yeah, what we're proposing, and again, we're very early on in the stage of this, because obviously there's a lot of talks that need to happen between the city of Clear Lake and us. But one of our proposals is, I know in talking earlier to the EDC, you were wanting Wi-Fi in the parks. And what we were discussing is the best method to do this is we would run a ring around the island of all the fibers. Now, what that does is it gives you a semi-self-healing network. So let's say if the cable is cut on East Shore Drive, it's not going to affect everyone. It's only going to affect a small pocket. And what we would do is pull from the parks to the homes in those areas. And we basically got it broken down into about 4 sections, and I'm including the community center as one of those sectors. And from the community center, we would also pull a dedicated circuit over for the city itself. So we could put the city on its own network, giving it as many strands as the city feels that they need to operate their day-to-day businesses.
And that would also
correct. The exact layout, exactly where splitters are and things of that nature, we're still too early in the discussions to be at that stage. But again, what I guess the small part of it, of the overhead, is that there would need to be terminal boxes throughout the island, and what we want to do, putting them in the parks, is minimalizing that. Now, we can, I know everybody sees the enclosures that the telephone companies put up and everybody else, but we have the ability that we can actually make something that's a little bit more aesthetic than just some metal box stuck in the ground. And that was something we would definitely do.
And
the bottom line is,
about
when we're building this network. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you say a little bit about not so much the technical, but what you're looking for from the city or from the EDC, and how do you see this working out? As far as how do you picture it organized?
Well, there's a couple of different ways, and I think we'd have to sit down and look at it. I know in some communities there is a public-private partnership, so to speak, where the city puts in funds and helps develop out the network. The other method is we could go it alone, and we would own the fiber, we would own the conduit and everything that runs through it. Obviously paying fees to the city for those right-of-ways, or the, excuse me. So there's a multitude of ways we can look at it, and again, that's where we need to have a little bit further discussion and see what part of the project the city and the Economic Development Corporation would want to play in it.
And another
I think
option
that's something we
Because
can,
initially
obviously
what
there's
we're
a lot
looking
to
at is a total investment.
Is there a
A
question?
total investment of what, Sam? I'm sorry. So a total investment of did
The
you
other
say a
method
number,
is
Sam?
a total investment. No, we have not gotten to a total number at this point. A large portion of that's going to be, what we're looking at doing is actually terminating to all the homes. What I've done for my initial calculations is I looked at the Galveston County Appraisal District, and calculated out the number of homes per block. And so what we would look to do is put a primary terminal, just a termination box, which is a small box that you're going to need for service anyway, at each of the homes. That way, when the home is ready to be connected to the network, it's a very quick turn-up time.
Okay.
And in essence, we would
Sam,
give
I
the
think,
entire island access to the network.
Sam and Richard, I think, appreciate this very much. I think, and I think this is helpful, and it's good to know this is a viable option. I think, Thomas, what we probably are going to have to think about doing is setting up a little bit of a working committee outside the full board, because, it's hard for us to do a deep dive, and obviously there's some more work that they're going to need to do, and just have this on a more of a workshop basis to figure out kind of how we move this forward, because it's a lot of work for them to put together a proposal. And it's going to be a fair bit of work for us to understand what we're acting on. So I think this is a good 30,000-foot flyover, but we'll need to do a deeper dive. Really know.
Yeah, we also need to decide. We need to figure out how much is support is he looking for, and is that support a monetary figure, or is it could it be, say, the boring or the conduit, and then the city would own the the conduit for, and then we can maybe put other things in it in addition to.
Or would it be a profit sharing thing between Clear Lake Shores and the actual company itself?
Yeah, and I think those are all open.
Yeah, everything's open for discussion.
Is there sales tax charged on Wi-Fi when you have internet service to your house?
Do you guys have tax charged on Comcast?
Yeah.
Okay, then there's sales tax.
So there's
should be charged on that.
So if you have so let's say the service to my home from this idea is $100 a month, and it'd be $2.25, so that would be sales tax. So that's one revenue source. The problem is, that's only a couple of $1,000s a month or so. So, but that would help some. Okay, great.
So we will.
Well, we can get into it, and I think that's
talking. Go ahead.
Hey, I have a question. Is this system proprietary? And is the underground conduit and installation belong to Clear Lake Shores at that point?
Well, it would vary depending on what agreements we come to. Obviously, if we're laying the fiber, we're going to own the fiber line itself. If Clear Lake Shores
is paying for it, wouldn't we own it?
Well, if you paid for it, but in the scenario I'm talking about, you wouldn't be paying for the fiber itself, only conduit. And we would, as Thomas was saying, if you were doing just the conduit, you could charge a fee for us running through that conduit.
Correct.
It is your easement. Right.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about.
But essentially, you're saying, Sam, there could be a menu of
whoever's. We need a workshop, kind of work through these types of issues.
Yeah.
Legal.
Yeah.
Right.
It just sounds like there are a menu
of
a
very large
options here that.
Right.
Well, there's a difference here, though. If you go to a larger company and they come in and they set up the fiber, there's an opportunity in the future that they're going to sell out to a large company, and you're going to be right back in the boat you started in.
Exactly.
So there's an option here to where that can't.
Well,
won't happen because it's dedicated to Clear Lake Shores.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Great.
excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Richard, thank you very much. Sam, thank you all. And we'll certainly be circling back. Thomas will be reaching out. We'll figure out how to kind of advance this conversation. But appreciate the thought and work that went into this. So we definitely are,
No problem.
we need to understand it. So, okay,
And it
thank
needs
you
to
all
be
very
broke out
much.
a little
Well,
bit.
we definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Well, we'll be back in touch and continue this conversation. The good news is we're not trying to make the decision tonight, and we've got a little bit of homework to do, and we'll be circling back so we can ask some intelligent questions and kind of get to the core here pretty quickly.
Well,
Okay, great. Well, then moving on.
We're not going anywhere.
Okay, fantastic. No, and I appreciate the fact you're a local business and resident, and that we definitely want to dig deep with you for sure. So thank you.
Stop by
Okay, we've got a
anytime.
number of items. We'll move on to the next
Hey,
agenda
I have a
item,
question.
which is
Question. Charles, I think Brent has a question.
I'm sorry, everybody's cutting out here. Okay, Brent.
This is Brent. Yeah, this is Brent. I in talking about this and kind of got caught up. I think what the city needs to do, we need to meet offline and take a lot of this under advisement, but develop exactly what we want, and then roll it out and go through the formal process of looking for providers. And it's going to take a little bit of education. I mean, we've talked to informally with a couple of different providers. We're starting to understand it a little bit. At least I am. I'm not a techno genius, but kind of understand it, and we can identify. If we want to, if we think that the program requires running conduit and we own the conduit, or if we want an option for owning fiber, but we need to identify what we're looking for after some education, and then roll it out to these folks so that we get a consistent evaluation and number from all the people that are interested.
But Brent, I can
then,
give you a call tomorrow. I can give you a call tomorrow. A lot of this has already been done.
Right.
On a high level.
We just need to, yeah. So that's
Yeah,
what
no, I think that makes sense, Brent. Yeah. Yeah. So I
Okay,
think
that was all I had.
absolutely right.
Guys,
And
I
I was
may go
wanting
to
to make
no
sure
video and
replacement plan too.
Yeah.
yes, for updating, and I know of some municipalities that their plan, they're in the internet business, and it's been very productive for them, but their replacement plan, they're looking 15 years down the road at replacement for hardware, and if technology is moving faster than that, then there needs to be a plan in place to address that. And we've got to make sure that, I guess, the tunnel, whatever we're looking into, has the capacity and the speed that we're needing. We could be as fast as we want here, but then you go to that terminal point and out into the great World Wide Web. If that's a bottleneck, then it's a bottleneck even on the fast side. So those types of technology things need to be looked at and addressed.
Of course. The bottleneck is going to be inside your own home, essentially.
And the other thing I had was the city is bigger than the island. So I know that there's a lot of discussion to improve internet for the island residents and people on the other side of the bridge, but the city's bigger than that, and there's a possibility that we'll continue to grow. So that's also something to take into consideration.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Yeah, And we have been looking at that, Britt, and including that in our plan, so that it would cover the entire city.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good. We do need to get together with the city and then kind of see how we best advance this. So again, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to, we're going to skip agenda item number 7. 8 and 9, I think, are really encompassed in our earlier conversation about expanding the landscaping, the assessment of the landscaping for the Lee Tract. Ronnie, I think we just wrapped those into that discussion. So if you don't
Yes.
mind, we'll table those. And
Yes,
then we'll
good.
move to item number 10, which is discussion and possible action to commission a mural for the south side of the Aspen's building. And Mike?
Yeah, hi. First of all, would be the south side and the side facing Clear Lake Road. So 2 sides to the building. So just to kind of update Joe, Vincent is already expanded his deck in the back, and he's getting ready to install a palapa over it and put a stage out there. And so expand his business quite a bit. He had plans on repainting the building, and that's kind of when the mural idea came up. Instead of just a painted building, perhaps some kind of mural. And his initial idea was a theme of fish shacks, the way the island used to be. And I could see something like the shrimp boats, a couple of shrimp boats, some fishing boats, sailboats, sunset, trees, that type of mural thing. So the question is, do we want to fund, and the mural itself in total was going to run somewhere between $8 and $10 a square foot. And he's got 2,150 square feet on those 2 sides. So it's about $21,000, $22,000. So that's kind of the ballpark. I've got 4 quotes so far. And, we could say, well, we'll pay the difference between the cost of painting and the mural. Or we could say we'll pay the whole thing. That's kind of what the discussion is. But the concept is that if we're doing the landscaping on the parking lot and the lighting, the front's going to look a lot better. And if there was a nice, attractive mural inside that building, especially side facing 2094, that'll really make us look a lot nicer, I think. So I guess at this point, the question is, do we want to consider possible funding for this?
How much money did we have in, the previous program that was there for facade? How much money did we have in there, or was it all discretionary? Or was there some?
It was effectively discretionary. It was on a I think we had I don't even remember what our maximum was, maybe $25,000 per facade, right. But I think that's so different than what we're talking about here that it really doesn't relate. I will just start the conversation because I think we need some discussion before we go to a motion. I'm enthusiastic about a mural. I'm more enthusiastic about a mural on the south side of the building and not wrapping it around to the front onto the Clear Lake Road side. That begins to feel like you're wrapping a car and not, and then it begins to feel like we're painting this building just to keep him from having to paint the building than it is we're choosing to put a mural on the side. I do think that it's so prominent and so material to the entry to Clear Lake Shores that we have to be pretty careful about how we choose the subject and probably get community buy-in on that. And I would be an advocate of forming a committee, not of board members, but of citizens to look at proposals for that and to make have some sort of selection process before we authorize it. The mechanics of that to be discussed, but I mean, to your point, we kind of know what we're talking about. It's somewhere between, depends on how much additional area is on the front of that building. If we took that off, call it $15,000 to $20,000 for a mural, but it could be an impressive piece. It could be something that attracts people to the community. As Ronnie and I were talking earlier, you know, that mural artist that he sent us the link to had several Instagrammable murals that people want to stand in front of and have their photos taken and really become an attraction for a location. So I could see it being something like that. But again, it could end up being ugly, and I don't want to be the sponsor of that. So
Yeah.
I think we, you know, so the question is, if it were in that say $20,000 range, is that something we as a board are supportive of? And then if we are, so that then what are the mechanics for moving it forward and ending up with something that we think the community embraces and doesn't, you know.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I think in some cities, they put out a request for proposal and they have the artist or the mural painters come to them with a proposed design and a cost, and they select the mural painter based on the creativeness of the design. And I think I would agree with Mike and Vinny that some nautical theme would be best, and maybe even using either the name of the city or incorporating his name in there wouldn't be a bad thing. But it's got to be something that's very, you know, eye-popping and catching and different. It's got to be, you know, something that's really neat, not just a one single thing, whether it's, you know, shrimp boats or the water or whatever, but it's got to be related to our city. And I think we should do this through the committee that you suggested, where we get somebody from the, I don't know, whatever, there's different committees, the Parks Committee, EDC, Council, maybe a couple of other people that are art oriented, and then ask for these muralists, if that's the way they do it, if they'll do a design and present a concept to us. And in one case in Friendswood, they actually used one person to come up with a design, and then they hired another person to do the painting. And I don't know, you know, how that was compensated, but and sometimes they spray paint and sometimes they hand paint. There's a guy in Friendswood does, one of them does spray painting, but the other building they did was a flat, you know, surface building, and they used someone that with brush. So I think the hard part is going to be finding the right design and the right artist to do the work and getting everybody kind of on board with it.
I think you just need to give them some direction as far as what we want out of it. You know, like you say, it's going to have to be something representing Clear Lake Shores, and then propose something. Yeah.
That's normally what they would do. They would come to us and say, yes, we would like to do this. What did you have in mind? Do you want a scene of a desert with a camel? You know, an artist is going to have some ideas that we might not think about. So, I mean, the last thing we want to do is be coming up with some kind of design when there's a lot of people that do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I agree with you that we'll definitely need to give some direction on it, whether we want the city's name on there. And if Benny may not want, you know, welcome to Clear Lake Shores on this building, you know, or maybe he does, I don't know. So, but it's mainly I think it's more about the design than, we paint it. Yeah.
If we're paying something, we should at least have a say so.
Yeah.
Oh, I think if we pay $20,000 for a mural, it's the design we want.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Hard stop. Yeah.
Right.
Hey guys, I think we need to have a better understanding and a legal framework already negotiated with Vinny before we go down this road, so that later on, when Vinny gets mad at the Clear Lake Shores for this, that, or the other thing, he's not spray painting the thing over or destroying it or changing it completely. We need to have some type of an agreement that dictates, you know, we're spending the money, it's your building, but you can't come and alter this at a later date.
Right.
Effectively, it would be a surface easement of some kind that would allow us to paint it on there, and he wouldn't have the right to modify that. It would be for a period of time. Maybe it's 5 years, 10-year or something.
Just like leasing a signboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it feels like to me, Mike, that, I mean, I think, is there anyone who would not be supportive with the right framework if we had the right process and
I only have one comment. You know, in the past, we've looked at other places to paint, and maybe a mural wasn't considered, but just making sure that it's fair and equitable across the range of all businesses, that we're not just isolating one business and they're getting something.
And I have another comment to add on to that. The two metal buildings directly behind Okies, actually, I think that makes a really good backdrop to do a mural that you're talking about, as opposed to Aspen's, even though Aspen's does need painted. I think it really adds to what the overall concept of what we were trying to achieve with the Okies location. Just my 2 cents.
There's
no, I hear you. And I think,
Okies itself needs a lot of help as far as the paint.
well, I mean, this kind of comes, I mean, it becomes full circle back around to Ronnie, looking at it a little more holistically. And if the objective was, you know, we want some murals, but we'd rather spend that 20,000 on 2 murals elsewhere. I mean, it gets complicated. So how do we want to move this forward? Do we want to ask either, Ronnie, you're looking at all of that, and do we put this in the bucket of murals being part of that improvement process, and we assess it and say, yeah, we'd like one on the side of Aspen's. And I'm thinking, Mayor, that this thing, the mural on the side of Aspen shouldn't be an Aspen sign. It really should be a kind of a lifestyle, quality of life, City of Clear Lake Shores thing, not a billboard for Aspen.
Well,
And I agree
I
with
think
you,
too that the
Charles.
biggest, if you look at the city overall, where could it have more impact than on that building? I mean, that's a big, wide open billboard. There's no other place where you could really see something that big except on the, maybe on the west side of Okies. You could do one, and that would be, could be seen from across the parking lot too. But that, I mean, to me, that's the only real place that we could have the impact that a huge, giant mural would have, with done well.
Which is good news and bad news. If we get it right, it's impactful. If we get it wrong, it's impactful. Yeah.
Hey, Ronnie, a couple of big ass trees in the parking lot would do a world of wonders over there, and we wouldn't even need to be talking about a mural on Aspen's.
Well, then how do we translate this? I mean, do we want to, Ronnie, do you and Mike want to kind of visit offline, because I think we need to come back with a framework again, unless somebody is opposed to the whole concept and we want to talk about that. Otherwise, we're saying we're kind of supportive of it generally, but we need to get into the specifics of what a motion would look like tonight, because I don't think we put a motion forward that says we'll spend up to $20,000 on a mural on the side of Aspen's.
No, I think
Charles?
Yeah.
There's a small town outside of Victoria, and it's a tourist destination just because of the murals. And they probably have, it's been a while since I was there, but let's say they had 15 murals. And they're amazing. I mean, people come all the way from Victoria and drive an hour and a half just to see these murals. And they're numbered, and they're by different artists, so you have different kinds of styles. It can draw traffic to the look at this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's outside Victoria, Texas, or Victoria, where?
It's out of Victoria in British Columbia.
Oh, British Columbia. Okay, got it. Yeah. No, if you could find that, and Joe, if you want to, I think So Ronnie, do you want to kind of lead that conversation over the next month and see if we
Yeah.
can come back with something with a
Right.
framework?
Right, and I think that this would be the first of possibly several buildings that we would be able to apply a mural to and make our city stand out and be something kind of different and be something, hey, I know that place. It's got those crazy looking pictures on the building.
Yeah, I agree. I think Aspen's is a good start. And if we like it, then we can move on. But Aspen's, I think, is the most prominent, and obviously it needs something on it. And also, I sent a link to Ronnie, but Brenham, has a bunch of murals. I think they have 18 or 20 of them, and they add to them every year during an art festival. And people go out of their way just to go to Brenham for all their murals. And it looks really sharp.
Wow.
But yeah, I think we can bring business.
No, I love it. I think it's exciting. I just think we just have to have the right framework for getting started.
Yeah, it needs to be done right. Exactly.
Yeah. Mike, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. One other comment, though. One of the reasons this got started, the conversation with Vincent, was he wanted to have the mural tie into the interior of his restaurant for decorating purposes. So if it was, island themed, fishing camps, things like that, he could put fishing nets, poles on the inside. He wants to add some seafood to his menu as well. So that's kind of what got the whole thing started, and he likes that concept. If we go off into doing something really abstract, I don't know how he's going to feel about it.
I don't think it'd be abstract.
Yeah,
the place in Canada, what they did is they had old historic photos of the city and the history of the city, and all kind of tied into that, along with the killer whales and the indigenous people, but it's sort of a history to the themes, I say.
Yeah. And I think that's what we'd have to do is that we need to pick themes or broad subject areas that we'd give some direction to. Okay, well then with that, I think the charge is really just, Ronnie, if you'll kind of lead the discussion for bringing that back, and we're all enthusiastic.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to sponsor advertising for local businesses. My thought on that, and I apologize for not having a clear formal budget, but I was awaiting some information even today from the Galveston Daily News. But my perspective is to put forward a motion to spend up to $5,000 for local advertising. Specifically, I was thinking multiple runs in the Galveston Daily News, probably half-page ads with colored business cards simply saying, maybe with the title, Clear Lake Shores businesses, eager to serve you, or back in business, or whatever the tagline might be, business name, logo, phone number, website, hours of operation, whatever, a very simple message. It turns out the Galveston Daily News, they've got a $250,000 grant from their parent company to match whatever you spend. So you can get a lot of bang for your buck right now with them. So if you spend $2,500 on ads, you get another $2,500 of benefit. So you can get a lot, and we could probably have 4 or 5 runs in the Galveston Daily News. I'd also like to run ads in the Islander. And between those two things, just kind of get everybody's name out there and try and get the flywheel moving for the local businesses for whom it would be appropriate. So.
And then you can duplicate it and just run it in social media too. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those have, the Galveston Daily News has a big digital media piece of that as well that, gives you a gazillion impressions. So the motion would be to approve the expenditure up to $5,000 for local advertising on behalf of the local businesses.
I'll second that.
So that was Johnny seconding. Any discussion or questions, comments?
I'd like to know more about what businesses you're talking about and how they would benefit from the advertising. In other words, are there specific businesses that are trying to market to Galveston?
Well, I think it would really
Just
be, it
so
would
I-
be Szechuan Gardens saying, you know, now we're now doing delivery, or here's our website to our menu. It would really be simplistic, and the size of the ads will be sized according to who wants to participate. Okies, yes, now serving, you know, we're open full hours, or we have to-go packages, or whatever the little piece of it. But at the end of the day, it's really just to say, to get the word out to a broader community. We're here, we're open, here's our website, come by and see us. You know, not much more than that. For anyone.
I can't see advertising in Galveston for Szechuan Garden because I'm all that way.
I can't hear you, Joe, I'm sorry.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
now.
Yeah, slower seems to be better. Yeah.
Sorry. If we only had fiber.
Right, exactly.
So I was saying that if it's targeted, then it makes sense, right? So Szechuan Garden is not going to benefit from advertising in Galveston. Nobody's going to drive from Galveston to Clear Lake, you know, Clear Lake Shores to go to Szechuan Garden. But they benefit from local market, you know, from advertising in our local little monthly paper kind of thing. That makes sense. So I just don't want to spend money where it doesn't make logical sense.
It's the Galveston County Daily News is what it is, not the Galveston Daily News.
Right,
So
it
it
is.
goes through
And maybe because I'm a reader, and I think a lot of people in the area get it. I mean, but again, also the Islander, we can look at other options. It's just to, yeah, and I hear you. No one's going to drive from the other side of the county, but it's just getting the word out.
I'm all for supporting local businesses.
It would be
Charles, what about the community update? That seems to be a really, you know, a good paper too for that type of business.
You know, I don't know the community update. Is that the same as the impact or the?
Yeah, I'm sorry, community impact.
Yeah, no, in fact, I've got rates from them on some other things that I'm doing. So yes, they're in the mix as well. I like them as well.
I think that's perfect for, you know, our core retail businesses. That's the,
Yeah,
it's
totally
key.
agree. Yeah, so I think between those three things, we ought to be able to cover it. So, so if that, then all in favor, show of hands. Okay, all opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Mike, you want to talk about Jammin's summer schedule?
Yeah. As of right now, we canceled Jerry Diaz Hanazery for the first weekend in May. He is available for Memorial Day weekend, that Saturday, if we're okay to do it. I personally think the social distancing can be done okay. Most of the people are on golf carts, maybe 89% of them. They can park 6 feet apart. We can take some of those tables out under the pavilion where the tables are 6 feet apart, limiting no more than 6 people per table, hopefully from the same household. And it's just a question of, you know, do we have the blessing of somebody to do it? Abbott, Kurt, Brent, whoever, somebody. Now, possibly next weekend, next Monday, I believe Abbott's going to announce phase 2 maybe. And maybe that's a good time to make the call. If he's going to go forward with letting the restaurants go to 50%, open up some other things, things are going in the right direction, and maybe so. And if things are going backwards, then maybe not.
Yeah. I would
waiting at the last
maybe
minute.
we recommend that be a call that we defer to the mayor and Brent for the Memorial Day weekend based on kind of the dynamic conditions. Is that
I agree.
appropriate, fair?
That would be appropriate. Yeah, next weekend is the Memorial Weekend. So we weren't going to open up things until after we get to phase 2. So
When is
Great time to open the pool.
the pool's
When is-
open, Don.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Yep.
Great.
25%, 32 people. Read the news.
Perfect.
So
Hey,
when is
when-
Memorial Day?
Yeah, when is
It's not
Memorial?
next-
Yeah, it's usually end of the month, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's 2 weeks
Memorial
out.
Day is the 25th.
Yeah.
It's not next weekend, it's the weekend after that.
It's not this weekend, but next weekend,
Oh,
Correct.
it is. So it's not, okay, got it. Yeah.
because it's the last Monday of the month.
Right. So
Yeah.
what I was saying is, I think Abbott's gonna say something on the 18th. So
Right.
maybe we made the call on the 19th.
I think we should do it. Just tell people if they don't want to, they don't have to go down there if they don't want to, and we'll have the table spread out, just like a restaurant.
Kurt, what's your take on it?
Right now I'm a no.
Well, do we want to, and I guess this would be a motion, do we want to give the final call to the city and then subject to whatever information comes out on the 18th, if things are opened up? I don't know that it makes sense to go counter to city policy, does
No,
it?
no. I think we should just leave it and then announce it once the governor says whatever we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, surely there's musicians that will go out there on a whim. They're looking for business. If we decide we want to have something and everything's open and hunky-dory, I'm sure we can get somebody within a short amount of time, right?
Well, are we saying then we cancel for now and then it would be, if by chance things opened up, we scramble around and look and see who's available? Is that what you're saying?
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, unless, he needs to know, Hans Reef needs to
Or
know.
we just wait and make the call on the 19th?
We have somebody lined up for the whole season. And Jerry Diaz is okay waiting on the 19th. And if it can't happen Memorial, do it the next month, do a second concert. He's
Well,
fine.
then I simply make the motion that we kind of delegate that call to the mayor based on whatever the state action, the governor's action is on the 18th.
Second that.
All in favor, show of hands.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes.
Was that Ronnie that seconded?
I
I
second
believe it
it.
was,
Okay.
yes.
The only thing I would add to that is, we can make the decision point on Brent as our EDC or EMC and then in myself, but let's not just pass the buck and say EDC
Hey.
yes for this. Well, no, we didn't. I don't think we did. We just said, it's not a blame it on the city. We're fine if it's canceled.
You're right. There's optics to
that. As a matter of fact, we would, we can frame it more positively, which the EDC is, I think the EDC, and we can amend the motion to just simply say our position is we will not have, we do not intend to have jamming on Jarbo on Memorial Day weekend if it in any way conflicts with Governor Abbott's guidance on May 18th.
or the current city emergency declaration.
There you go.
Or the current city emergency declaration. That is correct.
I'm in that motion. I'm in that motion into that.
Okay. Then, based on the amended motion, all in favor, show of hands.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. Motion passes as amended. The next item, and I know we're getting kind of long in the tooth here, but it is a circulation. Mayor took the time to color code and categorize all the various initiatives that we had discussed in our workshop on, gosh, was it only March 2nd? That seems like 1,000 years ago. Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know that we need to go through these. I think the key thing that I was looking at earlier this afternoon and thinking is that we've got a lot of green things here that don't have champions or leaders. And I thought, well, if we could go through at least the green, which are the, you know, we want to implement as quickly as possible. They're high return, low barriers to achievement. If we could identify a leader for each of those tonight, if anyone felt strongly about just starting with improvement of the golf cart parking lot at Okies, or maybe that one is, Ronnie, that one has your name on it because it's in the town center bucket.
Okay.
So that one has your name on it. Similarly, I think this number 3 has your name, the improvements to the city's lot north of Okies and the entrance monument signage. That's all kind of part of that.
I'd give all the ones in green to Ronnie.
Yeah, exactly.
Bingo, bingo.
Yeah, okay, well, that was quick. So
Meeting
thanks.
over.
Yeah. The parallel parking striping on Aspen, that seems more like just an execution thing that maybe we could even give to Brent. Or if am I mistaken?
No, you can certainly assign those and then we can run with them.
Yeah, we can cover that.
That one seems pretty straightforward. I think the chain link fence, again, that's Ronnie and me. I confess I was going to have that conversation with Kimon and it was over there a couple of times and just didn't feel like it was the right time to have that discussion. Facade improvement grants for businesses. I mean, I'll be happy to take on kind of setting up a framework for that. Clear Lake Shores marketing campaign. Johnny, is that something you have any energy for?
Yeah, I can help with that. Are you thinking the same
brainstorm that?
Yeah, what you're talking about already, sure.
City parking lot landscaping, again, Ronnie. Toxic waste drive, that's mine already. Marketing services for existing businesses, that one's mine. Assessment framework for 380 agreements, that one's mine. Catalog all commercial land and buildings in Clear Lake Shores, that's mine. Thinking about an intern. Assistance with the expansion of City Hall onto the newly acquired tract. I think that's really the mayor and Brent. Just tell us what we need to do there. And enhancements to existing parks and playgrounds. Who was leading that discussion? Was that you, Thomas?
Well, I can. And we're already doing something with them, and I can just talk. I can meet up with a Parks Committee and see what else they need, and then we can take it from there, because they're already getting out garbage bins and bicycle racks, and it'd be, you know, they're happy with everything, anything they can get, but I think it's a little silly for us to just go out as they're here, have this, you know. It'd be better if they have a need for something.
Yeah, I think really just having a liaison between the two committees, or between the board and the Parks Committee, I think would help, because they'll have plenty of ideas.
I think we're looking at going out and hiring somebody that's a professional in having parks and evaluate our park situation for Clear Lake Shores.
Yeah.
Make recommendations for the next 10 years. Ronnie had that out there, and then come back to the EDC and see what the EDC can help with.
So is that yours, Ronnie? Is that,
Yeah, I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, but that's something that I think we can find a professional to give us a proposal to analyze the parks and see what can be done with them, and if there are grants available to do it.
well, maybe Thomas and Ronnie, y'all can visit, because it sounds like
Yep.
Thomas is the liaison to the Parks Committee, but then this is a separate initiative under that to,
We can do that because it will tie in with all these new signs that City Council was talking about. We're going to get from Texas Park and Wildlife and all that. You know, all
Okay.
of this should tie in together. You know, at least be coordinated somehow.
okay. Well, if y'all can just visit on that. I think we'll just stop with the green tonight, because that's plenty to kind of bite off, and then we can begin to develop timelines for these and some real targets for getting them done. But we don't want to take too big a bite tonight.
Charles, did you want me to go over? I mean, this was a collaboration between council and EDC. So just over the chart, it's something that you do in businesses to see what things that are
Yes, please. Yeah.
worthwhile. It's it's a pick chart. So at fast pace, you go through a meeting and everybody argues where they be a good vertical scale for measuring the difficulty versus the horizontal scale measuring the benefits. At the end of the day, you're just weighing those out, and then it lands up being in the 4 quadrants, being possible with low payoff, easy to do, implement, which is a high payoff, easy to do, a challenge, which is high payoff, hard to do, and then kill is low payoff, hard to do. But it doesn't necessarily mean kill it. It means that your ideas can be dismissed. Your ideas aren't dismissed outright. There's some way to you can actually review it and revise it and make it something more accomplishable.
Well, Mayor, just to that point, it's interesting. I was just seeing number 30 there, public art, which kind of got that assessment in the workshop, but now it's morphed a little bit. Now we're talking murals, and we have a lot of enthusiasm and think that that's perfectly achievable. So, yeah, I think that illustrates the point.
And I was also thinking that, the public art was looking at sculptures, but the up above you had the facade improvements, and the painting could go along with that too, though.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Charles?
Yes.
I'm not sure if the crosswalk, the bridge crosswalk or pedestrian crosswalk over the bridge, I'd take that on. I'm not sure if it's on this list or if it's on.
It is. It's a yellow, which is the next category, which is, it's called a challenge, which I think is fine. I mean, anyone is free to champion any of these. It's just they're in terms of what we're really going to focus on. So yeah, I think that's something, we'll put your name on that one, Joe, for sure.
Yeah, it's number 14.
Yeah.
And we're also working with the county to see if we can move the bridge up to get replaced and add a pedestrian path with that.
Oh, wow, that'd be awesome.
Slowly in work.
Yeah. That would be, yes.
Because you're going to have a hard time getting the engineer to seal a cheap bridge across there just for pedestrians.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you all very much. Well, then we'll go to the last agenda item. I'm sorry. Kurt, do you have anything else you wanted to?
No, that was it. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for them.
I have one little bit of a left field, but that was just, I think you mentioned last year that we may get a blinking yellow light coming in when you come eastbound on 2094. Is that still possibly happening?
Well, we had looked into that, and Brent looked into it, and the cost was about, I don't know, 10K, Brent, and we kind of shot it down. I favor it hugely, but the big thing is to figure out, where does it go? Does it go at the Soul Freak across the Aspens, or does it go in the middle? Because people don't follow the rules. They cross right in the middle of the road. So will the crosswalk be beneficial?
Okay. Oh, okay. I thought you meant I thought it was the arrow you mentioned.
Oh, sorry.
When you,
I thought you were talking about
when you
crosswalk.
drive.
No, the arrow was, I got with TxDOT, and the trees down the median, they won't allow it from an engineering perspective.
Because it blocks visibility somehow, or?
Yeah, the visibility for the turning lane left into the RV is blocked, and then left onto the island looking east is blocked, and it's just too high of a risk. We'd have to remove the tree from the median.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah. I've never thought about it, never thought of that as a blocked visibility intersection, but I've just had. Yeah. Okay, last item then is discussion and possible action on the purchase of Clear Lake Shores EDC branded shirts. Johnny, take it away.
All right, I'll be super brief because it's pretty self-explanatory, but we talked about getting shirts a long time ago. Sent everyone an email. Mayor has connections with a company that does that, and it's Kima. Is that correct, Kurt? Are they in Kima or?
No, they're in Belton.
Oh, okay. Regardless,
but veteran owned.
Fantastic. But I was going to suggest, I don't know how many you want to do. You want to do one shirt each, 2 shirts, cap it that way. Everybody just picks 2.
I have a question. Do they all come with a bullseye?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do they all come
Yours
with
will
a
have one in
bullseye?
front and back.
Electronic tracker.
Yeah. I want mine monogrammed that says Ronnie Richards across the front. So,
Yeah, right.
Phone number on it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Put it in my account. Put it on.
We don't have to get them, or we can get, city council has, their shirts. So it's up to y'all.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of up to 2 shirts per EDC board member.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thomas seconds. Any further discussion?
What?
Do we have an enthusiastic second?
Bad idea.
Okay, well, all of those, if we have no further discussion, anyone in favor, show of hands, please.
Nobody's in favor?
We have 4 in favor. Those opposed?
I'm kind of opposed to it just because
So,
I
but
just
the
think
motion
that,
passes 4-3, so,
You don't have to wear it, Don. It's okay.
yeah.
right, yeah.
Or-
No,
or I
there's
can
no
pick it
way
up.
I'm wearing it. Trust me, there's no way.
Well,
I'll
if
pick
you
your
don't,
shirts out.
yeah, if you don't want to order one, you don't have to. But if you have one, you get in jamming on Jarbo free. Wear your shirt.
Okay.
Oh,
with
but
that,
you have to wear it to jamming on Jarbo. You could be knifed over there.
Yes. Okay, with that, there being no further new business, we shall adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Thanks.
Good
Appreciate
night,
it.
y'all. Thanks.
Good job,
Thanks,
guys.
Mayor. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks,
Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks.
Good evening.